I'm going to start this 1 minute early. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like a full house this evening. Thank you very much for coming out to your city hall. I'd like to call the regular council meeting for Monday, July 8th to order. First of all, the territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen speaking people of the Kasepsum and Songhees nations, whose historical relationships to the land continue today. First item is approval of the agenda. There is one change, the Wildwise presentation, item 6.2, for some unforeseen circumstances has been moved off the agenda, and they'll be doing their presentation in early September. May I get a mover and seconder to receive the near and long-term agenda? Okay, thank you very much, Jodison and Olson. Any discussion? Seeing none, any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Mayor's message. Sorry, please indulge with me. I have a few things. Everyone wants to get a message out before this is the last council meeting before the break. The Colwood's annual Eats and Beats is coming up on Saturday, July 27th. It's going to be held down at Beachlands just like last year. We learned some lessons though, so hopefully we won't make the same mistakes. It's a whole day of live music, lots of food, lots of beverages, and just tons of free family fun. If anyone is interested in volunteering for this, please reach out to our volunteer coordinator, Agnes. Second of all, Arts and Culture Colwood Community Art Show begins this Wednesday and runs throughout the month of July. It's at the Arts and Culture Center at the Lagoon West Park on Goldfinch Road. Third thing, Colwood is working to support at-risk youth this summer. A new youth membership program in partnership with School District 62 staff and the Game Ready program is focusing on engaging youth in healthy outdoor activities. These are the same mentors who work with the youth throughout the school year. The goal is to keep youth connected to familiar mentors throughout the summer to support their health, safety, and long-term success. This program is funded by Public Service Canada's Building Safer Communities Fund. Just great sense to Harry Chow. He was the second mayor of Colwood. In fact, back in 1985, he was elected as a councillor, and then he served 3 successive terms as mayor. And what makes Harry very unique, he was a lot of pride. At one time, and I really didn't understand this, in the history of Canada, at one time, Chinese Canadians were not allowed to vote. So it's kind of ironic that he became a councillor and a mayor for 3 terms. And one of the things that he's famous for, this very building that we're in right now and the land, he got it for $1. And so unbelievable. That's one of his big achievements. But on behalf of the city, I'd like to pass off my sincere condolences to his family. It's just a phenomenal individual, longtime citizen of Colwood. And the last thing I'd just like to let everyone know, so if you don't see councillors for the next few weeks, it's the summer shutdown for council. But at this time, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank council and staff for all the hard work and dedication and keeping the business going within the city. We've accomplished a lot over the past year. We're growing at a rapid pace right now, and we've stayed on top of the business. Sometimes we haven't done everything correctly, but we're learning. So I just like to make sure that I do pass off the staff, and they will unfortunately be working throughout the summer, except for some holidays here and there. So the city hall doesn't actually shut down, but you won't see any councillors until I think they're back on August 26th. And on that note, I just want to go on to the next item in the agenda, item 4, which is public participation. We have 6 written submissions and 1 petition that were received prior to the agenda publication, and they are attached to the agenda. There's 1 written submission that was received after publication of agenda, and that will be appended to the agenda tomorrow. At this point in time, I'd like to invite members of the public with the opportunity to present their concerns or questions. You'll be given 2 minutes, at which time you'll see the green, amber, and red light. And the red light, we're going to have to cut you off. It's a lot of people here tonight, and it's a very, very large agenda tonight. So alternately, you can wait until the item comes up on the agenda while we're actually discussing it. You can actually participate at that point in time. And if I can just get a show of hands, those that want to wait until the item appears. Okay. So, okay, at this point in time, I will open it up to the public just for general comments. Do you have the button right on there, Bruce?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll try to cut this down to 1 minute because I know you're busy. My name is Bruce Brown. I'm a Colwood resident and a member of Vancouver Island Supports Ukraine. I'm going to be here this evening to support and answer any questions that may arise following the presentation of the Manager of Corporate Services report on the recommendation that Colwood continue to support projects for Ukraine. As you know, the war rages on in Ukraine. In fact, yesterday, Russian missiles hit a children's hospital in eastern Ukraine. Our organization went to Ukraine in November and with Colwood's help purchased a school bus for the city of Alika. We are committed to going back this fall. We've raised over $50,000 for a breast milk bank in the Ivanko Frankic Hospital. So we are hopeful that the project and the report by the director will seek your approval, and we'll carry on with our projects in Ukraine with your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bruce. And Bruce is a Colwoodian. I should just want to point out, and the work he's done in the Ukraine is just unbelievable. An unsung hero. He's that guy that's hiding behind everything and getting the work done without any fanfare. Thank you very much, Bruce, for all your contributions on that. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at this time? Yeah, a little button. Yes. Whoop.
Okay, sorry, first timer. My name is Susan Nelson. I live on Cecil Blog, the upper part. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for letting me have some time. I apologize, I'm not as organized as I wanted to be this evening, but I have had some family emergencies happen lately. I'm phoning. I'm here to talk to you about the motion that Ian Ward is bringing forward, 6.3, regarding my understanding, reduction of speed limits in the Royal Bay area. And I strongly support and appreciate this motion that he's bringing forward this evening, if I understand it correct. But with that, I also would like council to consider expanding this type of project. I believe I sent an email to all of you regarding my concerns about Cecil Blog, the upper part, and I'm sure down below it has similar problems. Our main issues are vehicles flying through as a cut through to Jacqueline and in reverse in the other part of the day. And this is causing some really serious concerns for us on Cecil Blog. I am maybe being a bit of a spokesperson for my area, but we all have the same concerns because of mothers with daycares, dog walkers, cyclists, and we don't have that luxury of living in a new development that has sidewalks and crosswalks. Not just 2 weeks ago, there was another major accident at the corner of Cecil Blog and Souk Road. We have no crosswalk there, and yet it's a thorough through to the dog park and bus stops on either side that are not protected in any kind of way. So I'm going to stop it there because I know you have a busy night, but thank you for hearing my concerns.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you for taking the courage to come out tonight. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, so as the item comes up on the agenda, I will ask for public speakers before we actually get into the items. Okay, thank you very much. On that note, we'll move on to item 5, which is the adoption and receipt of minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the adoption of the regular council meeting from June 24th and the receipt of the minutes of the Planning and Land Use Committee meeting from May 6th, 24. Council Grove and Council Jensen, discussion. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on to new business. We have the pleasure of having Superintendent Todd Preston here this evening to do an RCMP update. Todd.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Council. I think we're going to start with a quick 3, 4, 5 minute video here, if that's all right with you.
Yes, please.
And it's been fully outfitted to meet policing standards. It's been on the road here for over a year, much longer. It's specifically being used by our frontline officers as a general duty police vehicle. It also has a 1% reserve cage in the back. In comparison to a regular general duty police vehicle that costs about $1,200 a month to fill out in gas, Tesla costs $0. So there's a significant cost savings right off the bat. That under this vehicle have given him positive reviews. And it's quite difficult to really control that shift. Officers now trying to come back to the detachment multiple times during the shift. That might be for prisoner transport, or to meet plans, so during that time, they will retain players in the hundred to charge us. But the difference between the Tesla Model Y and our traditional police vehicle, the Ford Explorer, is just simply the sheer size. So the Tesla Model Y has a significant smaller vehicle than the Ford Explorer. You can see here that we have room for our police equipment. However, we don't carry any extras. We are just carrying essentials. It's important to remember that many RCMP detachments are located in rural settings with climates. So the Tesla Model Y may not be a great vehicle for other detachments. However, it is definitely perfect for what we use it here for environment. Right now, we are testing the Tesla Model Y. However, we are expecting to also test the Mustang and Mach-E and the Ford F-150 like that. So I'm going to highlight this during emergency response. So larger drones that have more overwatch capability, have capacity, high optical zoom, digital as well as optical zoom. We can fly them into many different situations. Can try to close up. Generally, there's less people required than something like a helicopter, less maintenance required, especially speaking. General, so far, cycles of the
Great, thanks. Thanks for watching that along with me. I'm pretty proud of the work that, as you can see, some of our sections are doing and the involvement we're having in your community. I'll start off with probably the most topical thing, and that's some traffic stats for you here. I've heard loud and clear, obviously, that traffic is one of the number one most important issues brought forward by Mayor and Council here. So just to give it perspective here, since in May, we had, so this is our traffic section specifically, in addition to the general duty members that also do traffic enforcement. But in Colwood, they did, our traffic section did 32 traffic operations in May. They handed out six total warnings, 4 speeding, two other warnings. They charged 18 people, 7 for no insurance, 7 speeding, and 4 other violations. We were in the school zones 20 times, and 1 impaired driver was charged. That's the month of May. The month of June, similarly, we did 33 operations. So pretty much every day we're doing an operation in your jurisdiction of Colwood. The total warnings was 12, 7 speeding warnings and 5 other warnings. We had 32 charged individuals, 15 no insurance, 6 speeding, and 11 other violations. And we had 17 school zone patrols. We also charged 3 prohibited drivers and 2 unlicensed drivers in Colwood, and removed 1 unsafe vehicle from the road with a notice and order. As you can see from the video, our community policing has been very busy. We were at the working quite diligently with our Indigenous Peoples Day at Royal Bay with our canoe program. The RCMP did win the race, the canoe race there. Traffic unit, we actually hosted a traffic function there where ICBC partnered with us, and we were able to help people in the that are interested in motorcycling, some enthusiasts, and assist them in some driving safety skills. We're also doing a media campaign, which is providing a spotlight on our Keep in Touch program, which lots of people don't know that we have, but it's a program where every morning we call the seniors that are at risk or just don't have anybody else, and just making sure that they're all right and that they have the supports in place. And so that's a volunteer program, and volunteers call these individuals, and we support that program. The bike unit wasn't on the video here, but it's been extremely active throughout the trails, and had been proved to be extremely valuable in certain indecent exposure files that we've had here, where individuals have been unfortunately exposing themselves on the trails. Our mental health unit is fully up and running. We have the 2 nurses that are running with our 3 members, a corporal and 2 constables, and that program so far has been outstanding in every respect. So of the 2,513 files that we've had to date this year, 161 of those have been mental health related, and we've only apprehended 22 individuals out of those files. So the team is working extremely well, and hopefully we'll be able to expand that program, because obviously 2 nurses isn't able to fulfill the entire commitment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some of the more files of significance here. So from April 15th to May 16th, we had 440 calls for service. So just in a month, that's probably about average, is 440 calls. On April 25th, the Saanich Police Department street crime, with the assistance of the RCMP and the Island District RCMP Emergency Response Team and the Greater Victoria Emergency Response Team, executed search warrants on residents of the 800 block Drummond Way in Colwood and the 2300 block in Millstream in Langford. These warrants resulted in the seizure of a significant amount of illicit drugs: 1.2 kilograms of fentanyl, half a kilogram of cocaine, 1.5 kilograms of methamphetamine, large quantities of GHB and steroids. The street value is over $200,000. In addition to the drugs, $55,000 in Canadian currency, was seized, as well as a loaded 9mm firearm known as a ghost gun. We're also dealing with a very sensitive file with a report from one of the daycares in your area about a former employee and some sex assault allegations. And so we're continuing to work with our partners on that to see we're yet to determine what the outcome will be on that one. April 15th, I'll just go through, it's just some random files. I asked our analysts just to go through and just give you a quick snapshot of some of the files that we are going to. Some of them are serious, some of them are not so serious, but April 15th, we had an impaired driver pull over initially for speeding on the Cecil blog. The driver was impaired, and when the officer searched the individual, located drugs, cocaine, and a 3-month IRP was issued, and a liquor ticket also, that individual. On April 29th, on Souk Road, there was an assault, roommates fighting. The baseball bat was swung at his roommate. No injuries, and the individuals didn't want charges. April 30th, on Carndale Road, we had a domestic with a knife. We arrested the individual. That person's before the courts. May 12th, 1800 block of Island Highway, victim was waiting for a bus, was struck by an unknown individual with a bottle. So a random attack. And looking for CCTV and bus surveillance. Victim had a small laceration, and we really have no motive at this point. The victim and subject complaint do not appear to be known to each other. May 23rd, we had a report of an impaired driver near Whale Road driving on the curbs. Officers attempted to stop the vehicles, but the vehicle fled. The officers later found the vehicle parked at another address there, and the individual was sleeping in the driver's seat. The vehicle was stolen and also had been used in a break and enter, and the individual was arrested as such for possession of stolen property, impaired driving, and flight from police. May 31st, we had multiple reports of fight in progress at the Co-op gas station on Whale Road. Reported one of the subjects had a 2x4 wood. The fight was caused by a road rage incident and superficial damages to the vehicle. May 31st, we had a machine. This was an interesting one. It was a machete wielding suspect stole a taxi cab from downtown Victoria. They went on a joyride through Saanich, Victoria, View Royal, Colwood, and Langford. And so all the jurisdictions out here, and then West Shore SAP were successfully deployed a spike belt on Goldstream and were able to apprehend the individual. On June 9th, we had a suspicious motorcycle at Sangster Elementary around midnight. It had been involved in a hit and run earlier in the day. The driver was suspected to be prohibited. The officers attended, and the individual attempted to flee, but we were able to make an arrest on that individual. June 10th, Quarry Street construction site. There was 4 generators had been stolen over the period of 3 months, combined value of $11,000. We've been giving some guidance on them to how to better protect their property. And the last few here, report of a collision, 2 pedestrians on Latoria Road and Ryder Heschel Way. Driver was stopped at a red light, turned left when the light went green and did not see the pedestrians. June 12th, uninsured vehicle near GDF was pulled over. Driver was intoxicated, refused to provide a breath sample, and was given a 90-day IRP, and his vehicle was towed. We had a report on June 24th from BC Transit that the subject of complaint was riding the bus beginning from the Langford Exchange and was causing a disturbance at Island Highway and Ocean Boulevard. Matched the description of somebody who'd just stolen a bottle of liquor that day and was on conditions not to consume alcohol. So this individual was actually taken to the hospital because of other reasons. We had on June 29th reports of 4 teenagers highly intoxicated on a bus. Members attended. Bus stopped at Goldstream and Whale. 2 of the teenagers were picked up by their parents. While trying to arrange the pickup, the 2 began fighting and arrested. They were taken back to cells, those 2. And then July 7th, last night, we had speed enforcement on Veterans Memorial near Carndale Road. Truck approached from the Allendale at a high rate of speed, engine revving loudly, clocked at 137 kilometers in a 60 zone. So that individual also blew a fail into the ASD. So they were also impaired. So they had a 90-day prohibition and a 30-day impound for excessive speed. So I think I'll pause there. And I tell you those not just, I mean, every community has those types of files. You're not, but I just try to give just an overview so that you can kind of be cognizant that, of some of the types of files that are taking place in your community. I've also given you a biannual report there to have a look at, but I'll stop there and open it up for questions.
Thanks very much, Superintendent. I'll open the floor for questions. Counselor Day.
Thank you. Really appreciate hearing what you're seeing in our community for Warned is Forearmed. And just looking at your biannual report here, there's a couple of categories that I certainly don't know what they are. Most of them are pretty obvious, but I just thought for the benefit of everyone, I would ask, since I don't know and I've been paying attention for a while. The statistics codes, either provincial or RCMP, there's quite a significant number of the RCMP ones within the City of Colwood stats. And they're down a little bit from the previous year, but I just am curious to know what those are.
Sure. Yeah, so the RCMP statistic code is actually on page 14 because I admittedly have to look at that every so often myself to figure out what some of these stat codes are. But the RCMP stats code include, but are not limited, bylaws, traffic, collisions, driving complaints, impaired driving, warrants, missing people, animal calls, false alarms, and suspicious occurrences, etc.
That's excellent that you have that. Thank you. I didn't find that when I was looking.
I apologize. You didn't have this very long, so I.
Don't see any other. I just have one question. I always have one for you, Todd.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
What are the only number that is alarming to me in the report for Colwood is this thing called other criminal code violations.
Yeah.
Everything else is we've gone down in basically, or if we've gone up, it's so insignificant.
Correct.
So the one is that other criminal code violations, 102% increase.
Well, I'm sure glad that I looked at that and flagged that for myself before I came here because I do notice that that was a dramatic increase. So to speak to that, from last year to this year, your breaching and bail violations, so people that are on conditions that we've charged, have gone from 12 to 40. So that's a 28 file increase, a 233% increase of obviously individuals that are living in your jurisdiction that are on some bail violations that has been breached. You also have a cause disturbance, which has gone up from 15 last year to 41. So 173% increase, which is a difference of 26 files. And curfew checks from individuals that are obviously on conditions that have gone from 46 last year to 140. So 204% increase or 94 extra files.
Super. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Councillor Ward.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one item at the end, Superintendent. I haven't been following along. I know ST 61 has controversially removed police from schools in that district, against the wishes of many in the public, including First Nations. I know that we still have a police presence in schools in SD 62, and I'm just wondering if that is, been reaffirmed for the coming year, or just where that lies with, between West Shore RCMP and SD 62 in terms of what the future looks like there.
Yeah, great question. We have absolutely solidarity with the superintendent and school district 62 and the board. There has been absolutely no indication that they don't want us in the schools. I believe it's extremely short-sighted that they don't have us in school district 61, which has, I believe we have 5 schools in that area. And you're right, the First Nation have been very clear with us that it's certainly not them that are asking for us to be removed from the schools. So it is frustrating. I mean, we would love to be in those schools making, making the contacts, the bridges, the forming those relationships, those young relationships that are important. But for whatever reason, the board has decided that they don't want the police in the schools.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that that will continue here. And I think just for the benefit of the audience, I was at a meeting where one of the councillors with the Songhees Nation, was very clear that they weren't consulted on that move, and that essentially the name of the First Nations was being sort of hijacked with this agenda. So I found that really disheartening to see that, that this was being portrayed as something that, that was happening at the request of or to benefit Indigenous peoples when in fact they weren't consulted. So I'm glad to hear that we're still in our schools out in the West Shore. And I think we saw in the video, what that means to some of the kids and probably to some of the officers too. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks very much for the great report. Thanks very much for coming out tonight.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6.2, speed limits and design in Royal Bay. Before I have Councillor Ward motivate his motion here, is anyone from the public would like to speak to this at this point? Please, Tony.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name's Tony Smethurst of 390 Bonaparte Street, Latoria North, Royal Bay. I'd like to congratulate Councillor Ward in bringing this concerning motion to Council, which I fully support. As a resident in Latoria North for over 6 years, I have noticed a large increase in traffic. The majority of homes have 2 or more vehicles. And now as Latoria North approaches 95% built out, there is a need for speed limitations, especially with the increase in traffic from Royal Bay Secondary School and the speed in students. Also, there's an increase in the number of young children in the area, which is a great concern. Too often vehicles traveling along Ryder, Sparrowhawk, Caspian and Dunlin streets are going too fast for the road width and high density, along with limited vision due to heavy parking and boulevard shrubbery. Latoria North from the Chosen to Quarry Street definitely should be a 40-kilometer-hour zone, and the intersection at Latoria Ryder needs Councillor Ward's suggestion of a leading pedestrian interval at the lights due to high pedestrian volume, particularly at school times. I urge Council to approve this motion without any delay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tony. Anyone else from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, I will turn it over to you, Councillor Ward, on your motion. If you want to make your motion and we'll get a seconder, and I'll come back to you for motivation. Is that okay, Councillor Ward? You're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move that we proceed with the motion as written to specifically, well, it's a challenging one. There are a number of items in that motion raises options. I would clarify that some of those are options to be reviewed. But generally speaking, I would like to put that motion on the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we get a seconder? Councillor Jordison. And I will open it for discussion, but I'll have you motivate, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I just wanted to thank the folks who wrote letters, the many people who've stopped me on the street and kind of initiated this. I walk around the community pretty regularly, and I have folks, particularly people with young families, people with strollers and things, that stop me along Latoria specifically. They were instrumental a few months back in the pedestrian activated signal across Latoria. Many people, worried about getting to and from the commercial area and the daycare. So a lot of neighbors now speaking to me after, an unfortunate incident at the corner of Ryder and Latoria about safety again. So I thank those folks, Mr. Smethurst and Miss Nelson. I think, I appreciate your comments as well. My thought process on this, is sort of the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? And it's in small bites. And I think, this motion is aimed towards Royal Bay because there's some very specific pieces that fit there. But I do appreciate you coming forward and sharing that, there's many applicable pieces here that fit across Colwood. We have a lot of residential areas that would benefit from the safety lens. So in terms of this motion, I won't bore you with stats. I think anybody who pays any attention could find a significant volume of material that speaks to, the safety elements of this. The simplest one, and you can find this anywhere, but the BC Provincial Government Community Road Safety Toolkit speaks to it, that, speeds of, 50 kilometers on most residential streets where there are pedestrians or cyclists are not consistent with research findings as safe speeds or with best practices for speed management. The same report says that studies have found that even after adjusting for other underlying trends over a 20-year period, 30-kilometer-per-hour limits resulted in a 42% reduction in road casualties. So the piece that really stands out for me at the end of the day on a quiet side street or a residential street is that if you have a vehicle strike a pedestrian, if they're going 30 kilometers an hour, 9 out of 10 of those pedestrians survive that collision. That's a 90% survival rate. That changes dramatically. You move it to 40 kilometers an hour, now only 6 of 10 make it. 60% of those people survive. But at 50 kilometers an hour, the posted speed limit around most municipalities, you have a 20%, it's actually 18% survival rate if you're hit by a vehicle, 2 out of 10. And at 60 kilometers an hour, which a lot of people in the 50 zone know that there's that unwritten rule, and I wish Superintendent Preston was still here to verify it. We put him on the spot that if you're about 10K over or under, you probably won't get a ticket. So at 60 kilometers an hour, the survivability in British Columbia is 0%. So it's not a joke. And I think, there's a real safety reason to examine it, not only in Royal Bay, but elsewhere. I would also say that opposition to this type of motion or reducing speeds in general often harkens back to folks going, okay, you're trying to slow me down. You're slowing my commute down. Traffic is bad enough. And I hear that. I commuted for decades to downtown Victoria, and the commute is a problem. There's a reason they call it the Colwood Crawl. It starts with us. Well, it starts further out than us, but it's a reality. But when you look at the timing, so for example, if you leave a home roughly where Mr. Smethurst is in sort of deep Latoria North, and you drive out to Latoria, if you're going 50 kilometers an hour today and we change that to 30 kilometers an hour tomorrow, it's a difference of 4 seconds, maybe 5. If you can do the math, you can walk it out yourself. If you lower the speed limit from 50 kilometers an hour to 40 kilometers an hour from Quarry Street down to Latoria and Metchosin, as I've put in this motion, you lose 9 seconds on your commute. So it's killing a child worth 9 seconds or 4 seconds. It's 13 seconds in total out of your commute. That's the question I guess I have, is that, I'm pragmatic. I'm not sort of the new school, choke traffic off, force people out of their cars. I think there's room for both. I think we need to have very, efficient, fast moving arterial roads and collector roads to get people to their destinations. But when people are home or within spitting distance of their home, they should be safe. They should be able to take their kids to the daycare. They should be able to walk to the elementary school that's in the plans, the community center that's in the plans, the commercial area that's there, the daycare that's there. There's a high school there. Lastly, I would just say that we need to be proactive. Too often in Colwood, we've been reactive in terms of traffic and road management. Right now, I live on Latoria. Directly across from me, there's 163 townhomes that will take possession this summer. There's 2 large condo buildings that will take possession this summer. Latoria Road is no longer a rural, bypass to get from Metchosin, the waterfront area, up to Happy Valley and Langford at a high rate of speed. It once was. That was a shortcut for people. They raced through there. What it is now is a very busy pedestrian, cycle, and vehicle thoroughfare that bisects the most dense community within Colwood, an area that was purposely built to attract young families with a higher density than anywhere else in our region. So when I go back to what Susan Nelson had brought forward, it's not that we don't need to look at this elsewhere. It's just that we need to start here because this neighborhood was designed for 30 kilometers an hour with a bisecting road at maybe 40. It wasn't built for 50 and 60 and 70. So on behalf of the children in my neighborhood, I feel compelled to step forward and put this motion on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Ward, for the oratory. It does behoove us as a group that as we build out these areas of the community that we reflect on some of these safety measures, and I'm supportive of all of this. I am looking for Councillor Ward's thoughts, or even staff for this matter, but when we're talking about investigating certain speed reduction items, I mean, I take it, are we asking for a report back from staff on what their suggestion is? I'm just, it's awkward language, I guess, is the point. So I'm looking for some feedback on that. Why don't I just wrap up a couple things here and then we can do it all at once. But that, as well as you have an either or as far as the pedestrian crossing. I'm sure they're both great, but I don't know a whole lot about a scramble crossing, whether that's appropriate. So are we asking for a report back on that, or are we just going to take a decision and run with it? As far as the speeds, you know, I can easily get behind that. And quite frankly, I do think we need to review this in multiple areas in our community. Thank you, and I'll just listen.
Councillor Ward, and then I'll go to you, Councillor Day, okay, if you mind, just to respond.
Thank you, Councillor Jensen. I realize that some clarification would be helpful there. Specifically, I'm looking to lower the speed limits within Latoria North within the residential areas to 30 kilometers an hour effective immediately, essentially as soon as staff could make that change, with a 40 kilometer an hour reduction in speed from Quarry Street to Metchosin, ideally right away as well. The secondary part of that is to essentially defer to staff and their expertise to look into options for further speed reduction, as well as the intersection piece. So on the intersection piece, obviously I've listed a variety of options. If I'm being realistic, you know, pedestrian scramble is something that might fit there in 10 years, maybe 15 years when it's built right out. What I'm looking for at this point would probably be leading pedestrian interval on the signalization. But again, I would defer to staff to investigate that. I would also defer to staff to look at speed reducing devices. And I think, again, I don't want to be too specific on that because as we've seen, there's other options. There's chicanes and other things and speed bumps and speed maps and rumble strips. And, you know, but there is evidence to support from Transport Canada that mechanisms that alert speeding devices, speeding drivers work. 72% of Canadian residents or drivers endorse roadside warning signs. And that they've been proven to reduce speed by up to 12 kilometers an hour. That's specifically just those digital boards and new signage. So I think if you reduce speeds from 50 to 60, which is current, well, 70 and 80 in some cases, even if you can have signage that reduces it to, you know, by 12 kilometers an hour statistically down Latoria in that stretch, I think we've accomplished our goal. So I hope that clarifies the motion, looking for immediate action on speed and the city to look at options on the other two components.
Thanks very much. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I am in support of the motion. The only thing that I think we should be going into it with our eyes wide open. There is a cost to doing this. The City of Victoria brought to UBCM a resolution to try to bring down speed limits in all municipalities, because the cost part is when you are reducing the speed limit from the standard speed limit, you need more signage. And there is a cost to that. I think it's worth it. But I just don't want to be pretending that there's no cost. There is a cost. I do think that the most effective thing is the ideas that are in the last and further that speed reducing devices. I think those are really important. Those speed reader boards do make a difference. And in spite of, you know, a lot of people wondered if people were going to, you know, see how fast they could get clocked on that board maybe, but what I'm observing is that where we have those boards and where there has been adequate community discussions, there's been a huge reduction in the number of people disregarding that signage. So I think it is working. I think we need more than one solution, but I think pedestrians should be safe, and we want the streets to be a safe place for pedestrians so that it is a part of your community that's available to you, whether you're in a car or on a bike or in a mobility device or pushing a stroller. Yeah, any one of us should have the safety and the security that they belong in this place. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Councillor Olson.
I just have a quick question. I'd like to direct this to staff. I can get behind this, this motion of Councillor Ward, but I'm just curious with respect to the cost. When would we see something come back to council for consideration?
Cheryl.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. With respect to the first two items, primarily would be signage. And so the intent, should council wish to proceed immediately, is we would report back and use our contingency once we determine sign locations and costs for that. The latter two, we would report back either as part of the upcoming service review, given the timing in the year, and council would see likely options at that point, which could be then included in the upcoming capital plan.
Thanks. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just questioning whether, as Councillor Day alluded to, the idea of the general overall speed limit being reduced. There are other areas of Colwood, it seems to me a fair number that have a problem with speeding, sight lines, lots of cars parked on the street, creating visual barriers to kids running on the street. Our streets are busy and they're crowded in general. And I think that there's lots of neighborhoods that could benefit from what we're suggesting here for North and South Latoria. So I like the idea, just wondering if we can't include the entire municipality into some kind of a overall strategy for how we're going to do this. And if we could just, you're entering Colwood, welcome to Colwood. By the way, residential streets are 30 or whatever we decide. This doesn't, I don't know. I recall sometime in my life seeing that entering, and that would be a way around a lot of excess signage, perhaps. Whether or not it's effective, it might be a way to, well, save that cost, but also to capture all of the areas that are struggling. I'm not sure that we can piecemeal go around neighborhood by neighborhood by neighborhood and decide whether or not a speed limit should be set. It also is confusing for drivers who won't necessarily know just offhand what they're allowed to drive, what speed limit is appropriate to what street. The 40-kilometer zone on Latoria, I'm not sure about that. I know that the sight lines with the plantings in the middle of the boulevard, I find it a bit awkward trying to spot people at the crosswalks. And I think that maybe that would be something to consider as well. As far as the speed devices, there's a lot in here and about the crosswalk. So the original part of the motion, the recommendation, I can support that. The 30 zones, certainly, but I would be happy to see something that looks at the entire municipality. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Would you, Councillor, I'll come back to you, Councillor Grove. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to add that prior to any vote, I would look to amend the motion. I did notice that the third paragraph gives an either or on the LPI or pedestrian scramble, and I would just amend that to read that that staff review equipping with a LPI or pedestrian scramble, just so that that's not a finite item. The other piece I want to mention, and where this comes from for me, is that and Superintendent Preston mentioned it in his fairly lengthy description there, is that a couple individuals that work at the Tim Hortons on the corner of Latoria and Ryder were struck by a vehicle the other day. And that's the first one that sort of made, where there were injuries and it was made note of. But I see a lot of close calls regularly. That's not hyperbole. That's not exaggeration. I've had a lot of people talk to me about very close calls there. And what really strikes me here is that years ago, I used to live in Gordon Head and still have family members there. And a young girl named Layla Bowie, her name might be familiar to some. She was crossing near Gordon Head Middle School there in an area that everybody in the neighborhood, including myself, had raised to Saanich to say, this is a dangerous intersection. People are going too fast. Someday someone's going to get hit. This young girl was struck and hit, and her life is forever changed, as is her family. She's mentally incapacitated now. Her family has to care for her. It took that to happen for Saanich to say, hey, wake up, we need to do something here. They've subsequently changed their rules. You know, you talk about 40 kilometers an hour down Latoria, and out here in the West Shore, it strikes people as, whoa, that's crazy, that's slow. You know, it's 40 kilometers an hour along Tillicum and other major thoroughfares now in Saanich. There's a school of thought that maybe they've gone overboard, you know, by making it 30K all over. I'm not proposing that because, like I say, I'm not from that school of thought that we need to treat everywhere the same. We are fortunate in some areas here. We have very wide roads in some neighborhoods that, you know, maybe have no sidewalks or have sidewalks, but it's reasonable. The sight lines are very clear. A vehicle traveling at 40 or 50 could stop a lot quicker than they could in a narrow street with some, as Councillor Grove mentioned, the medians and some of the vegetation and things like that in Royal Bay would make it difficult to see somebody. A child darts out with a ball from the soccer field there or something, and you've got no stopping time. Again, there's a lot of studies that show you what the stopping time is and what the vision sight lines are depending on the different rates of speed, and it narrows very quickly, and your ability to stop changes very rapidly. So I'm not opposed to looking at other neighborhoods and other areas. I'm open to any other sort of amendments or anything like that. I just want to be clear about where my motivation comes from on this. I don't want to see another Layla Bowie, you know, in Colwood. The Tim Hortons kids thankfully survived, one with a pretty severe injury, one with just some bumps and bruises. But, you know, next time it could be a baby in a stroller. I mean, I don't want to be party to that.
So do you want the third part of your motion to be amended? I can just do it friendly because it is your motion. And if the seconder agrees, friendly, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to wrap this up quickly. My perspective, I do support the motion, but under one condition. One condition. If we do this, and I think you mentioned this, if we do it for this particular neighborhood, we should be looking at all Colwood. So I'm just a firm believer in that. I don't want it to hold this up, though. I think this is something that we, you know, phase two. I think that someone mentioned that we can go on and look at this and bring it up during the service review or whatever process you had recommended, Mr. Earl. So that's a condition. I want it understood that we have to look at all Colwood, because this problem is throughout Colwood. I know that anyone would be foolish not to assume this. Geez, in my own neighborhood, our speed limit is 20 kilometers an hour. How many people do 20? I see some of my people that live in my strata there. And so I am concerned about that. And the other factor is that we really have to think about how we implement this, because there is another big cost to this that people are not thinking about right now, and that's enforcement. That's a big issue to me right now. Enforcement. Without the enforcement, we can put up any type of speed sign we want right now, and we're going to fail. So this is not I don't think we're going to have to increase all the number of RCMP we have. It's just the cost is just exorbitant. But I think we have to come up with another methodology. And it's something that maybe I'd like to send to the infrastructure committee to think about. You know, maybe it's a communication plan, maybe it's a marketing plan on how we get people to slow down. You know, I'm frankly tired of coming down VMP all the time and, you know, doing the speed limit 60 kilometers an hour and then having people pass me all the time doing 80, 90 and then giving me double fingers now. I used to only get the single finger, but now I get the double fingers. So it's that other portion of it right now is the implementation and how we do that. And I think that's another very important aspect that we have to look at. I'm not going to solve it tonight because that's not, you know, I'm not going to make a motion on this, but it is, you know, it's that understanding. Is that okay, Mr. Earl? I think that's what you mentioned. Is my understanding right?
Your Worship, administration, I think will take your current commentary as direction that at service review, if we were to have options for a citywide approach, that would be well received.
Yep, right. Perfect, thank you. I think that will address what you wanted, Susan. So, Okay, at this point in time, I'm gonna call the question. Are there any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much. We will move on. 6.4 is special event filming and process at Lagoon Beach. Brittany, okay, so I think I'm going to, I'll try to make this more expedient. So the issue is that we have two committees. We have the Parks and Rec Committee, and we have the Environmental Committee. They want the same thing, but slightly different. I believe the Parks and Rec Committee wanted to have no more events at the beach, at the Esquimalt Lagoon. That's it. We're finished, done. Whereas the Environmental Committee took a more realistic approach, and they said, let's look at every one of these events case by case. And eventually move everything down to where we want to have it, which is in Beachlands. That will be the major place where all the events are going to happen. But to switch this off, you know, like a light switch right now, I think would be a bit of a disaster for us right now. So I'm just trying to be careful on this. So that's the issue in question right now, if I can summarize it. So at this point in time, I will open it up for council comments, or if they want to make a motion. Councillor Jensen, I'll let you start off.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I was going to go ahead and move the recommendation as presented here, but yeah, I see the confliction there. But I'm going to go ahead and move that recommendation just for discussion. 6.3, I think it is, Your Worship. It's been renumbered.
So yeah, it's which way though? The Environmental Committee recommendation or the Parks, Trails and Recreation Committee?
So I am more aligned with the first one, Your Worship.
You stop it now.
I think that says medium groups and.
Yeah, but if you look at further, it's basically stopping anything else. So I think you want the second motion.
So I'm looking at the second one, Your Worship. Thank you very much for the clarification. I'll
Okay.
move that for discussion. Thank
So
you.
we'll go for a seconder on that, please, and then I'll just open the floor. Okay, Council Ward. And I shall open it for discussion. Council Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I obviously supported the second option. I think this council has made it clear that we see the opportunity to move some of these items over to the Beachlands area as it develops out. But I think we would be rash to adopt a full stop on that. I was down there on Saturday night, you know, taking in the music down there. Food trucks there, you know, and where it's located in relation to the bird sanctuary areas, you know, it's minimal impact. I think there's always going to be a push and pull when it comes to the lagoon area, but it is kind of the jewel of Colwood. And not everybody views everything the same way. There's many, I've spoke to people in the community that say there should be nothing there, right? It's a bird sanctuary, no activity of any kind. You know, and then I think, well, there's another 50% or more of the community that says, no, this is our waterfront. We're a waterfront community. We moved here for a reason, to go to the beach, enjoy it. A lot of young families down there, a lot of, well, elderly people. There was newlyweds in their 70s celebrating on Saturday night with the live band. So I would hesitate to take that away. I think we should be cautious and look to move the high impact events in such a way that they'll be successful. And I have confidence in our staff that they will be. They've done an admirable job for years. But it would be really rash to go full stop on this. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Council Ward. Councilor Day. Whoops.
Thank you. I think both recommendations have merit, but I'd like to point out that there is an ecosystem and there's biodiversity at the Beachlands too. There's a huge kelp bed just offshore in that area. We have to be careful everywhere that we are. Our environment is important to us. And I would have liked to see our medium and large group gatherings move away from Esquimalt Lagoon. because it is nesting habitat. It is a migratory bird sanctuary. We've tried for years to sensitively work there, and it's been about 50-50 in terms of success rates. Some of the areas that have been restored previously have been destroyed through events, not because people mean to, because it's inadvertent when the ecosystem is secondary to the other things that people are doing. Nobody intends to do any harm. But the sounds and the activities of very busy, very active people in large groups, I think is detrimental. And the lagoon has a charm and a wonder, and it does suit elderly people participating and doing things. I just think that we need to put the environment first, because it's under a lot of stresses. And it's the thing that makes us want to go there. And we could very much be in danger of loving it to death. I will support the motion to transition groups away from Lagoon. We're already doing that. I would like to see us recognize that food service providers, commercial events and activities, and large group gatherings don't fit well at the lagoon, and we need to move them to a better, less close maybe to the water itself. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Councillor Day. Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. I'm actually the chair of the Parks Committee, and I think there's a huge misrepresentation of what the motion was from that committee. And there's no timeline associated with it, a now or never type thing. It was in suit with moving within the 3 years as has been described. But we went into it, there was a table that was provided, and it was, it asked specific questions about whether we should have liability insurance, whether you should charge a fee. It was quite more detailed than just whether events should be moved away from the lagoon. So I think there's some miscommunication here, and that is not what the committee was saying. They were saying that they went through each of those items in the table and expressed about the private small group gatherings, the educational groups, so I don't really know what to say here. I mean, the whole intent was that it was council, I think, at the March 11th meeting that directed staff to consult or directed staff that we should start moving things away from the lagoon. So I think that's all that the Parks Committee's intention was, but went into specifics about whether liability insurance should be charged and that sort of thing. So
Thanks very much for the education. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Chair of the Environment Committee. Got it all here. Yeah, this is a bit of a mixed bag because it seems like everything's represented. I'm just pointing out that the waterfront stewardship plan speaks quite significantly to this issue, in the sense that we have accommodations for certain activities at designated spots, which will be designed presumably to consider the effects of human behaviors on the spit. I prefer protecting the habitat as much as possible, and I think that stewardship plan speaks very well to that. We have some funds to do a spectacular job with it, I believe, and perhaps we're dealing with what we have today, but yet in a hopefully not too distant future, we'll have a significantly different structure there, and that our efforts should be toward refining that product to make sure we've got the best possible. And I think that that's happening. We have biodiversity baseline studies underway to understand the impacts of humans activity that in this part of the city. And I think that there's more coming. How that translates into this particular motion, I'm not even quite sure, except that when the Environment Committee, as I recall, we had a huge amount of discussion around this entire issue, and it covered so many different areas. It's so difficult to be very specific. But to determine a case by case situation is important in that some groups are larger and yet low impact. It really depends. And then I had the experience just last week. It was a motorbike. I think it was an anniversary for Indian motorbikes or something. I don't know if anybody noticed them. They started to show up. My wife and I were walking along the spit, heading home up the hill. And by the time we finished walking past, I think I counted 42 motorbikes and easily 100 people. Could have been more. And I thought, they just pulled in. They didn't apply for a permit. And they came to enjoy the beach, which is a public park, which is what it's there for. And it was all very organized. The parking was very ruly. The group was very much where they were supposed to be. I'd hate to shut that down with signage and ticketed wardens with books of tickets trying to control groups and so on. So, and then the Environment Committee also talked about the filming permits and so on. And I think there was an intention that that be limited to something that's very carefully determined first. I think staff are doing that to a large degree already. They're vetting some of the activities down there before it happens. So I think I'm finished.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm gonna go to Councillor Olson first, because first time speaker, then I'll go back to you, Councillor Day.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to ramble on, but there's definitely a couple of points from each recommendation that I agree with. And I actually did watch the Parks, Trails and Rec Committee online and when they were speaking to these particular ones. So with Councillor Jordison, I do recall, you know, with the smaller groups, I think there was some requirements that are being recommended that weren't there before, like the insurance and fees and things like that. And so I think with any event on the lagoon, there should be insurance for everything. There should be a fee to the city of some kind to have a small wedding or a gathering of sorts. I struggle with eliminating some of the medium events, just in general, like the end of the school year. You know, the school district has a lot of the kids come and experience the lagoon. And to my knowledge, everybody's very respectful. And then there's good cleanup. And I think it's a great educational opportunity for kids in the community to be able to enjoy the waterfront. But at the same time, there's going to be some events that, you know, all events are unique and, you know, some are just not going to be suited to that environment. We also know with the multi-use pathway, the intention of that with the waterfront stewardship plan is to thoughtfully guide people, you know, through sensitive ecological areas. And there is food service is envisioned for, you know, on the waterfront there. So I'm not quite sure where that fits in. This motion here tonight is a little bit confusing to me, and I don't want to be somebody to defer it, but I think there's still some fulsome conversation that needs to be had, perhaps with staff. But I just wanted to share some of my thoughts. I certainly would be more in support of the recommendation from the Environment Committee that we transition large groups away from the lagoon and consider, you know, medium-sized events on a case-by-case basis. I think I just wanted on the record that that's kind of where I stand with it, because I think there are going to be some medium-sized events that are, you know, educational for the community, like with the school groups and stuff. So I would hate to take that off the table. But again, I think I would probably be leaning to deferring this because I feel like there's still a lot more to it that we need to chew on a bit. Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you. So that is really where I read this and I thought they weren't mutually exclusive. Like I thought, this is great. There's a process that talks about liability fees because some people are coming to the lagoon and they're making expensive advertisements filmed with equipment and the city is getting nothing out of that. And then there's other groups who are using our park the way any park user would use it, and that's acceptable. And there are times when there should be a permit. So I think a referral would be a better suggestion. And I don't want to cut anybody off. If there's somebody who really needs to speak, please raise your hand so that I don't make a motion that cuts you off. But otherwise, my intent was to make a motion to refer this to maybe a joint meeting between environment and parks.
Can I come back to you? I'll come back
Yes.
to you. I just want to get through the other speakers here. Second time, Councillor Georgeson.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no, I just, this motion is not, it's not correct. It's misleading. And the intent of the motion is not here. So this isn't the Environment Committee against the Parks Committee. This is to find a better way forward. And there's a huge amount of missing information in here about who determines what a medium group is, who determines what a large group is. There's fees that were talked about. There were many more things. So I'd like to make a motion to refer, sorry.
Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm just trying to understand a little bit more about what this is all about. On the surface, it seems to be just a continuation of a multi-council. I mean, going back before this council about what the lagoon should be used for and different user groups, you know, sort of having some infighting over it. When you look at the studies that have been done on the threat, so if the migratory bird sanctuary is the greater concern, the studies that have been done on that by the Canadian government, there's ample information online, indicate that the threats to the bird sanctuary are not stemming from a food truck down the road or live music or people using the beach. It's generally restricted to off-leash dogs. That's the number one concern identified by the federal government and survey respondents that, you know, that sees the threat. And that's not even anywhere in these discussions. We're talking, well, let's move the food truck away because, you know, that's the threat. When in reality, all of the survey respondents and the federal government information state that, okay, the only real threat to the migratory birds are off-leash dogs. So that's not even part of the discussion and that I see at either committee. And I'm starting to wonder, is this an ideological debate here between the folks that just want it to be, you know, a bird watching sanctuary and other folks that want to be able to go down to the beach and have a good time? And I'm really not interested in debating that, I think, this evening. So I certainly won't support either motion, I think, this evening. I think this is a bigger question. And I think we need to do some work on understanding what it is that the committees are trying to do, because there's some miscommunication there. And is that in alignment with the best needs or the needs of the community as a whole, not one particular user group or another? And is it aligned with the vision of this council? I mean, I think I can only speak for myself. When I thought of moving large events over to beachlands, it was for a number of reasons. I thought environmentally, it's a good thing. Without being a bird sanctuary expert, I thought, well, you know, huge crowds like that can't be a bad thing to move that over. But I thought it's also good for Colwood in that, you know, beachlands is supposed to be a regional destination. That's in our OCP. So there's an alignment there. But if this is just an ideological, you know, tug of war, and I'm just going to tap out on this one and say that we need to do a little bit more homework before we make a key decision on what really is a destination. Speaking of regional destinations, a regional destination for the people of Colwood and around the area.
Thanks very much, Councillor Ward. Councillor Jensen for the second time.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm hoping we can clean this up just a little bit here. I'm going to withdraw my original motion first off. I think we left Councillor Jordison's motion to refer dangling there. I'm happy to second that. Unless it's been seconded already.
I can go back to Councillor Day. I think you have a motion, full motion.
Anyways, I heard refer once,
So,
twice, and I'm
corporate-
second.
Okay,
I'm
Ms.
happy to
Corporate
second.
Officer, how do we get around this? Should we just vote on the current one on the floor, or can we go with Councillor Jensen as the mover to withdraw his motion?
He can make a motion to withdraw his motion, and I believe that Councillor Ward was supportive towards that, correct? Yes.
Okay, well, first, seconder, then I can call the question on that one then.
It's withdrawn, Your Worship.
Okay, that's true. Okay.
I withdrew the original motion. It's done. I heard referral a couple of times. I'm happy
I'm
to
going to
second.
Councillor Day here because she's got.
I'll leave it to you.
Thank you. Councillor Day?
I'd like to make a motion to refer this to the Parks and the Environment Committee. I'm hoping they can meet
together and talk it through and get some more clarity on because there's many aspects. There's the commercial filming aspect, there's the events, there's the parks, and what constitutes what does need to be. I would like all their information to be considered.
Okay, can I get a seconder on that? Okay, Council Olson and Council Jordison on.
Yeah,
the motion.
I was just hoping to add to it. I'd just like to know what, I guess it's the communications department wants to know. And the questions to be outlined properly so that they can get the answers back. Because giving us a table of a bunch of information and asking us questions is what we brought back, and what environment brought back was something different. So I don't think the ask is clear, and I think that the ask needs to be clear. If we can somehow add that into the motion, that the ask, or like we didn't bring this to the table and suggest this, it was brought to us. So we need to be clear on what we're asking.
Is that understood, Mr. Earl? We can just move on. Okay, thank you. Councillor Olson? Councillor Olson? Are you on? Okay, Councillor Olson again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to overcomplicate things, but I'm just wondering if we're looking at having a larger committee meet, should we be including the Waterfront Stewardship Committee in this? Because, I mean, do we want to do that, or do we just want to keep it? I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Different terms of reference, I think, Mr. Earl, for the Waterfront Committee.
Your worship,
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay.
the terms of reference for the Waterfront Stewardship Committee would include things such as infrastructure during the project build to support permanent food trucks and permanent gatherings in hardened locations.
So it wouldn't be a bad idea.
It wouldn't be outside of their terms. of
Yeah,
reference.
okay, so, okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Grove on the motion.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the Environment Committee's, pardon? The Environment Committee spent a considerable time grinding through this subject already. And I understood from the notes that I saw from the other committee that I'm not sure that doing it again is going to get to the bottom of what we're looking for. It's a very difficult. We have a chart here in the report to the Environment Committee that we spent considerable amount of time considering defining small group gathering, medium group gathering, large group gathering, less than 50 people, 51 to 200 people, over 200 people, food service providers, less than 50 people. And there's quite a bit of reference to the stewardship plan and how they envision areas for containing the food trucks. I don't particularly personally like the idea of the food trucks down there. There's lots of food businesses, brick and mortar in the area that people did in the past make use of. Those people are there working hard 365 days a year. They're good businesses in Colwood. They pay a lot of property tax. So if we're going to have food trucks, it should really be something that's built at a reasonable commercial level. You know, you get into the details, and that's after you've already decided you're going to let some food trucks be there, let's say. You can grind on about that one fact for quite a while. So I'm not sure that having another meeting is going to bring more clarity. In fact, this motion is kind of loaded, I think, because the issue is just that difficult, and there is no easy answer. As Councillor Ward alluded to, the idea of ideological battles, and you hear everything from no two-legged creatures within 5 kilometers of the place to wide open usage. And somewhere in between, we're going to have to find a way. The stewardship plan, in my thinking, sounds as if it leads toward at least a controlled situation to some degree, where we can then, at that point, decide if the food trucks appear and so on and so forth. And already we've moved the big event away, and we've moved a lot of the music in the park events away. There's not nearly as much on the beach now as there had been. So it's shared around to the different parks, and I think these events are fabulous the way it's going. And I have some assurance that the stewardship plan, or sorry, that staff are already very careful, like any kind of a filming permit that takes place down there isn't going to allow, you know, a lot of explosions and gunfire type of interruptions. And we already vet this sort of thing. I'm not sure that we need to set a rule about at this point. So I can't support the notion of another meeting because I just don't think it'll accomplish what perhaps is intended. So, and I don't have an answer to what I would suggest instead, other than to move forward, because the motion we're looking at tonight is asking for something that's just almost too vague. But I revert back to then the environment committee aspect, and we just take a look at it case by case, which is I think what staff is doing now to some degree. They don't just let everything willy-nilly come down there. So I don't know. I guess we have a motion, and I guess that's your.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks very much, Councilor Grohl. I'm just gonna wrap this up. I guess it was a case of, I watched both committee meetings. You know, this is what was voted on in both committee meetings. So I'm a bit confused when people say this is not what came from the committee. That's what the motions were made and that's what was voted on. I clearly watched this, okay? So I guess the reason why we were thinking here was, it was the very last portion. There was nothing wrong with the motion from Parks, Trails and Rec, except when it came to the last part where this is where I was confused. And further, that the following event types not be permitted at the lagoon: medium and large group gatherings. And commercial events, activities, food service providers. So that sounds pretty direct to me, that that's not what's wanted by the Parks Trail. And that was, and that was actually what was voted on during that committee meeting. So the only difference that I saw, with the environmental committee, they're saying, hey, just wait a second here, let's just do a transition of this. So that's the difference. So when it's being said tonight that that's not what came out of the meeting, well, it's, you know, the Latin term non sequitur doesn't follow, because I just watched the meetings and that's what was stated. So I'm confused now myself. So basically the motion that I understand what Councillor Day is proposing, it's a do-over, because there's a lot of confusion, obviously, because I'm confused now. So a simple do-over is okay. I'd rather get it right than vote on something that is not quite right, and we're all confused at what we're voting on. So you know what, it's not going to hurt to do a do-over, and that's why I would support this motion. And at this point in time, do you want to say something?
Sorry. I just thought it might be good to suggest that when the biodiversity baseline study comes back, that would be when we would potentially hold this tri-committee workshop, because we'll have a little bit more information about the actual impact of activity at the lagoon, and we can bring it all together with a little bit more data.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to call the question then. Those in favor of the motion? Okay, any opposed? Just it's being referred back to the committees. Any opposed to it? Okay. And just Councilor Ward opposes. Okay, thank you. So the motion carries. Okay. 6.5, rezoning application 517 Latoria Road. I just want to, oh, sorry, 6.4. I was trying to get myself ahead of the. So in this case, what I want to do is just for efficiencies, because we're going to be here till midnight, the way we're going right now. I just, instead of having the presentations redone again, I hope council has had the opportunity to look at the planning and land use video committee meeting. It was only the one item, so it was pretty simple, straightforward. Yep.
Oh, that's what we're on.
Yep,
Okay.
we're on it.
You said 517. So-
Yeah, no, I corrected myself.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
Yep. So at this time, I'm just going to ask Councillor Jensen to make the motion. I don't want to kill the discussion. I'll look for a seconder and then we're going to go straight into discussion on this one. Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did chair that meeting, and I'm happy to move the recommendation. And if you want to circle back for some reasoning.
Yes, I will. I'll circle back for you to motivate. Seconder, please, Councillor Ward. And I'll go back to you, Councillor Jensen.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. There was just the one item on the agenda. The committee had absolutely no problem with the first three items, which was A, B,
Your Worship?
and C.
Sorry to interrupt. Are there members of the public that like?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I should have asked. Does anyone, before you speak,
Sure,
anyone
go ahead.
in the public wish to speak to this item? I'm very sorry. I get excited, so.
Your Worship and members of council, my name is Alan Lowe. I'm the architect for this project. And I understand that you can have a long meeting, so I will keep it very brief. We do have a presentation, but the only thing that I want to really reflect here is we were at the Planning and Land Use Committee meeting that Councillor Jansen chaired. Since then, we actually have reduced the height of the sign. The sign previously was 7.92 meters high. We're proposing it to be at 6.29 meters at this point. Just want to also say that bylaws are a very blunt tool that municipalities can use, and one size really does not fit all. And when you look at the sign that we're proposing, it's not a backlit sign. It's not a sign that has a lot of letters on it that takes up 15 square meters. The copy area that we're actually even asking for on this sign is only 1.81 meters on each side. So that is approximately 4 square meters of signage on this monument sign that we wanted to place there because it reflects and it actually complements the building design. Okay, so with a lot of bylaws and sign bylaws, one size doesn't fit all. And what we're asking is, as somebody was saying about events and case basis, you do need to look at each individually if one's asking for a variance to determine if the variance is acceptable. And we feel that the sign is not right at the sidewalk either. It's set back. So the impact of the sign isn't going to be right in your face. And the sign is very elegant. The copy area, as I say, and the copy area is the logo, and the sign itself is probably 25% of what you're allowed for copy area on a sign. We're not trying to create sign pollution. We're trying to put something on this development that will actually fit in with the building that we're designing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Sorry, over to you, Councillor Jensen.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Mr. Lowe. I guess I'll just reiterate some of the discussion. The committee had no issues whatsoever with the first three items, A, B, and C. There was zero discussion, and all the discussion did surround the sign itself. We did sever those items just for ease of discussion, which I thought worked well. And there was extreme concern from committee members, and I believe it was a unanimous vote to deny the application. If there have been some changes, I still see from the staff report that they are recommending denying that portion. And quite frankly, that would reflect the will of that committee. I'll yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion. I'll just open it for discussion. If everyone's had a chance to read it, I think the other big issue on, whoops, I won't talk yet. Councillor Ward, sorry.
Yeah, I'm the first one to be concerned about sign pollution, and continuing sort of the abhorrent look that runs all the way up the Colwood Strip. But I don't think that that's relevant in this case. I've driven by and stopped and looked at the area, although there's a shared property area with Langford, I see the existing Jeep dealership that's there. The examples that the applicants provided, the freestanding McDonald's sign and other things, kind of speak to what they're after. This isn't, multi pylons with a whole bunch of different brands on it. It's one kind of architecturally reasonable looking setback sign along a highway. We're talking 0.29 meters in height, variance from 6 meters. I frankly don't have a problem with it. I would support the amendment to allow it. I think to deny it, really, what are we trying to accomplish? We're not changing anything significantly. To the naked eye, nothing's going to look different. We're just kind of holding the line. And then I think Mr. Lowe summed it up when he said, the bylaw, we shouldn't just look at the wording of the bylaw. We should look at the intent of the bylaw. And to me, the intent is obviously to avoid, visual pollution and things that look truly reprehensible. This isn't it. I mean, I think we can exercise reasonable judgment and say that this is not an unreasonable request. Now, if he's talking 12 meters or something, sure. But, less than half a meter, I can live with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I would propose to move that amendment that we allow 6.29.
There we go. Discussion on the amendment. Seeing none, I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Motion carries. And back to the original motion as amended. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Not seeing none. Motion carries. Okay. The next four items, or next three items, 6.5, 6.6, 6.7, are related to 517 Latoria Road, which is actually Byzantine Way, which I live in. Therefore, as there may be an apprehension of bias, I am going to, as I live in the immediate area, I will have to recuse myself from the chair and from these discussions, and I'll ask Councillor Jordison to take the chair for these items. Councillor Jordison.
Okay, so should I read this, Marcy, this whole motion, or because we go into sections of it after?
I believe there is an applicant and staff presentation.
Okay. Oh, yeah, and the public participation first, probably. So if anyone wanted to speak, okay, please come up. 2 minutes.
I'm requesting a little more than 2 minutes, please, if possible. It's not going to be much more than 2 minutes.
3 minutes.
So, sure, my timer's going already. So, good evening, Council. My name is David Kang. I live on 530 Elgin Point Terrace. I'm here on behalf of the residents to express our deep concerns with regard to the proposal of phase 2 of the development of 517 Latoria Road. We urge you to reconsider the current proposal to increase the number of housing units from 27 single-family homes to 44 townhomes. This significant increase in density will adversely affect our community in several ways, and this is for the entire Beasanton corridor. This significant increase in density will adversely affect our community. As a community, we collected 182 signatures for our petition reflecting substantial concern over the rezoning proposal, and I trust you've read the petition itself. Firstly, traffic congestion and safety hazards will escalate. The traffic study conducted during the summer of 2021 in midst of a COVID pandemic during the summer does not accurately reflect the potential year-round traffic impacts, especially during peak hours. Secondly, the proposal neglects essential recreational amenities. The absence of recreational spaces, excuse me, yeah. Thank you. The absence of recreational spaces and playgrounds is a glaring omission, contradicting the principles of community, inclusivity, accessibility, and safety. This failure to meet the original zoning expectations, which are currently in place, which include 3 parks or playgrounds, undermines the well-being of residents, families, and children in our community. Additionally, increasing the density to 44 townhomes will strain our local infrastructure and public services. The reduction in road width from 8.5 to 6 meters within the development raises serious concerns about traffic flow, parking, accessibility, emergency vehicle access. The proposal for luxury townhomes under the guise of addressing housing affordability is a contradictory statement. The market-driven approach prioritizes profit over community needs, deviating from the original vision of the neighborhood and failing to provide genuinely affordable housing options. We have several recommendations to address these issues. 1, limit the development to a reasonable increase from the currently zoned 27 single-family homes, similar to the developments at 3640 Propeller Place and 551 Besanton Way, which is Madrona Creek. Include essential, well-sized and meaningful recreational spaces and playgrounds in the new development plan to ensure a high quality of life for families and children. Conduct a more comprehensive peak season traffic study to accurately assess the impacts of the development and implement appropriate traffic management and safety measures, not in the summer during the middle of COVID. Assess the capacity of infrastructure and public services to support proposed increase in housing density and prioritize necessary upgrades. Facilitate the meaningful community engagement and consultation throughout the planning and development process, ensuring local voices are heard and respected. Sorry, I'm at 0 right now. I just have one more paragraph, if that's all right. In conclusion, we urge the city to prioritize public safety, well-being, and environmental sustainability of our neighborhood by addressing these concerns before approving any further development on Besanton Way. The residents felt excluded from the process, as the committee's recommendation for council was largely based on information provided by the developer and analysis conducted by city staff without adequately addressing our concerns. Our neighborhood welcomes sustainable development and supports thoughtfully planned projects such as those at 3640 Propeller Place and 551 Besanton Way. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me. I'm sure there's other people that want to speak to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Karen Woodland, 524 Elevation Point Terrace. First, I want to say I 100% support biodiversity protection and lower speed limits. So you have a challenge to balance residents' concerns with developers' desires amidst an affordable housing crisis and provincial legislation overriding municipal authority. So how will you ensure new development in Colwood will support the goals of the Colwood Climate Action Plan, the Active Transportation Plan, and the Parks and Trails Plan? If Colwood wants to be a pedestrian-friendly, safe cycling, low emissions community, and we've heard lots of discussion of that tonight, which I applaud you on. But if that's the community we want to be, then we have to look at what we're allowing for development. So the top of the hill is an ideal location for public view park, given Elevation Point Terrace is the connector pathway between Latoria Creek and Havenwood Parks. But the top of a hill is a very bad location for high density, which of course should be next to a transit hub. So the rezoning request for 517 Latoria is maximum density with minimum standards. The 2 townhome complexes, as David mentioned, on either side are excellent developments. So Colwood is doing great things to engage citizens. And I want you to know we are engaged. Colwood is doing great things to have citizens take pride in their neighborhoods. We take a lot of pride in our neighborhood, and we want it to stay safe, pedestrian friendly, and thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Yep, come on up. Oh, just push the button on the base of the microphone. Oh,
Sure.
there you go. Yeah.
Gotcha. Quick learner. My name is William Coons. I'm a 15-year resident of the Madrona Creek. My wife and I are 15-year residents of the Madrona Creek strata, just opposite the ravine there. I'm a former part of the leadership team of the Edmonton Parks Department, and I worked through, we call it working a problem when we had something confronting us. And one of our guiding principles was that you could always anticipate unexpected results of your decision. And that's mostly out of your control, even though you imagine a few things that might crop up here and there. But the one thing we tried to avoid was if we made a decision and thought it was a resolution to a concern, a problem, or situation, that in application of that response, you didn't create 5 or, just grab a number, 5 or 6 new problems that didn't exist before, but will exist afterwards. I think the articulated concerns of our good neighbors over on Elevation Point are a hallmark of that. These are the traffic, the safety, and for the residents up there of the eventual town, if it goes this route, the townhouses, snow removal. There will be no place to park. There will be no place to push the snow off. And I think you're working very diligently to resolve the parks and playground issues. But these other issues are going to, not when, but they will occur. And it's something that I think you need to address when you're taking this very serious matter under your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Oh, you just turned it off.
Oh, it was already on. Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, committee members, and members of the general public. Thank you for your opportunity to allow me to speak. My name is Chris Trops, and I live at 526 Besanton Way. You should have an email from me. I'd just like to add to that email. When we purchased our home in May 2017, we relied on the original covenant. The developer had 7 obligations listed on Schedule A that were supposed to be completed before homes were constructed. At best, they only completed 3, possibly only 2. We fully expected those would be completed shortly after moving in. We have never been given an updated timeline from the developer or the city and have been waiting patiently for 7 years. A covenant showing a 40+ unit townhome development with no parks or playgrounds would have been a deal breaker for us. With respect to the playground options offered by the developer, I would just like to, it's my understanding that the option 2 is being recommended by staff. In my opinion, this option is a very poor location and would not be suitable for a community of luxury custom homes. The space is the size of our great room and is actually quite insulting. There's a strong mandate within the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and OCP to protect viewpoint opportunities, provide new community parks, and specifically play amenities in our area, of which are lacking. A new community park or green space of suitable size with benches and a viewpoint structure would be a great way to bring residents of phase 1 and 2 together and increase amenities for all Colwood residents. This could be your legacy and a win-win for all going forward. The alternative is that the developer is the only party that's going to benefit. We are not against development, but we are requesting an option that makes sense for the location, respects the current residents of the area, and limits the negative impacts that an over-densified strata plan may cause. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Oh, you just have to push the button.
Madam Chair, members of council, my name is Colleen Brownlee. I live at 132-3640 Propeller Place. I'm here not to speak against the development because the development is inevitable. We've had experience with the developer in the past through Elevation Point, and I am pleased with what has happened to this point as far as participation and having an avenue to make some recommendations. My primary concern is safety and public safety. And this falls into what Councillor Ward was brought up today and with Superintendent Preston. Propeller Place has a statutory right of way for pedestrian access only to Latoria Park. That was part of the development initially when it was developed 12 years ago. We have, as a result of increased population on both sides of us, not just pedestrians coming through, but we are having a problem with increased motorcycles, cyclists, etc. Our population is mostly seniors, although we do have pets and we do have some young children who are in the area. We have a number of young children who, because of the lack of play space area in the actual Elevation Point Byzantium development, will come and play in some of our areas, and their parents will bring them through on their little motorcycles or scooters. And that's fine. However, if we have a motorcycle racing through far faster than our 15K speed limit, it's dangerous. We've had a couple of near incidents. And so my question is, and I asking council, what can you do and how can we work together to patrol it, police it? It's not my job as a resident or the chair of the council. I don't believe it's responsibility of the developer to have to finish a path that was required, that was not completed by Colwood, and you'd need to be a mountain goat to get through it. So that's what I'm asking for, to ensure public safety with the increased density, the likelihood of people wanting to have motorcycles to cut through when the speed limit becomes slower on Latoria Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Yes. There you go.
Great, thank you.
Is that better? So that I'm not yelling in the microphone. Good day to you, Mayor and Council. My name is Julia Trops. I'm at 526 Byzantium. I'll be referencing 4 documents: the total history of rezoning as supplied by the developer, the covenant for my neighborhood Elevation Point, the OCP, and the C44 Paris 7-8. In the history, a statement is made by the builder that there was confusion by current owners. There was no confusion. There is also a statement about realtors and builders represented. So as I said, there's no confusion. There was no representation other than the covenant we were provided. This developer has made a few statements that are inaccurate, which makes me question his credibility. And I'm quite happy to talk with you after because I have a minute left. An important point the developer refers to is money problems, but this is not our responsibility. Neither is it yours. A covenant is a promise. The covenant is registered on title. The Land Title Act referred to in C44 grandfathers our covenant. C44 also allows secondary suites to be used as additional housing. We bought into the neighborhood based on the promises and the vision within the covenant. I heard vision from many of you tonight. We invested in the property in Colwood because we believed in that vision that Colwood had for the neighborhood. We had the choice for Langford and Bear Mountain, but we believe the promises in the covenant. I support responsible development in phase 2 that also respects the people who will live there. They need adequate parking. They need proper roadways. The current residents need unrestricted access to natural areas, which could be restricted if a strata goes in. The OCP supports parks.
But you covered on that one.
The OCP supports parks, and this neighborhood can too. Elevation Point could become a destination park if the promises made in the covenant are fulfilled.
rather than a space that appears as an afterthought, which is what is being recommended by city staff. A park worthy of the name Elevation Point could become the next jewel in Colwood's crown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Steve Mandy, 498 Byzantine Way. I echo all of my neighbors' comments so far, and I'm going to add my own. We too also purchased our home in Colwood. After already owning a home in Colwood for 25 years, we purchased in this development, also based on the covenant. Promises back to us. Misleading information by the current development application. I've already sent you in an email. I have not received a reply back of that yet, but there are misleading information that the developer did give you guys. General contractor, if this were to go through and the rezoning application is submitted, what's to say that this person does not then sell their property to another developer and they change their plan? That's already happened once. Look at the development on Souk Road, right adjacent to the school, Colwood Elementary. Tit for tat, it happens. Trail system. The current trail system is inadequate. The new proposed trail system up and around, going down through Madrona Creek, I don't think those residents will care for that. The park system. The original plan says for 3 parks in the community, 2 cul-de-sacs, lots of parking, 27 homes. I agree with that. I don't agree with the 44. The 44 new homes with longer driveways, as the developer came back in their latest reversion, you could get up to 4 homes for cars. Currently in our neighborhood, majority of the homes have 3 to 5 vehicles in them. So now if you put 44 more homes up there with 3 to 5 more vehicles, Byzantine Way has now just become a giant congestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Okay, so, and now there's an applicant presentation. Marcy, did you say? Okay. Oh, staff, sorry.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor and Council. So there's 3 items on the application, on the agenda tonight for 517 Latoria Road. So this first part of the staff presentation is going to focus on the rezoning application itself and how it aligns with the OCP and the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And then I'll hand it off to to the applicant to give their presentation before we go into the parks discussion. So starting with the rezoning application itself. No worries. So staff received this application in October 2023, a complete application, and it underwent a comprehensive review by staff and external agencies between October and December 2023, as shown on this slide here. So it was referred to various internal city departments, including the Community Planning, Parks Department, Engineering and Building and Bylaw, as well as external agencies such as BC Transit, BC Hydro, BC Assessment, School District 62, etc. Following this, feedback was provided to the applicant in December 2023, and the applicant took our feedback and revised their application and resubmitted in April 2024. The applicant did lead neighborhood consultation in January, and once we received the revised submission, it was scheduled for the Planning and Land Use Committee on May 6th. And now the Planning and Land Use Committee recommendation from that meeting is on your agenda tonight for consideration. So just a little bit of context, the property is located near the intersection of Latoria Road and Wishart at the end of Byzantine Way. It is currently zoned Comprehensive Development 8, the CD8 zone, which permits up to 59 dwelling units and single family dwellings only. The application is to rezone to maintain the CD8 zone, but amend it to permit townhomes, duplexes, and up to 77 units. The current OCP designation is the neighborhood, hillside, and shoreline. And I'll provide a bit more context on the next few slides on how it aligns with that designation. So starting with the built firm policies. So the neighborhood, hillside, shoreline designation permits ground-oriented buildings up to 3 stories, including multi-unit townhomes and duplexes. It also provides a floor area ratio of up to approximately 1.2. So this application is for 3-story townhomes and a floor area ratio of 0.52. So it aligns with both of these policies. The OCP also contains several policies related to public realm improvements. So that includes improving the public realm for pedestrians, creating a high degree of permeability, including direct walking connections to and from frequent transit, as well as protecting and optimizing views from public spaces. So this proposal during the first phase provided Latoria Road frontage improvements, which included sidewalk and lighting and landscaping. So the frontage improvements help satisfy the first policies you see there. In terms of the permeability, we'll discuss that in the next presentation, but the applicant is proposing to provide some direct connections to the sidewalk on Lon Byzantine Way. And then lastly, for protecting and optimizing views, the property is located at a steeper elevation, or there's a grade change, so staff are not anticipating any views to be impacted from Latoria Road. The neighborhood, hillside, and shoreline designation also places a high emphasis on protecting the natural assets of the lands and ensuring that developments are developed in accordance with site adaptive planning policies. So this speaks to identifying buildable and non-buildable areas based off of the natural assets of the lands and trying to plan for development so that it's minimizing the disruption to those natural assets. The applicant will present in their application how their proposal aligns with this, but essentially they provided reports from their qualified environmental professional and arborists that speak to trying to minimize disruption to the natural assets along the perimeter of the property and trying to keep the development within the center previously disturbed portion of the site. The OCP also requires retention of 40% of the site on greenfield developments, which is dedicated to part private open space. This proposal is recommending or providing 52% of preserved open space. I will save the discussion around the parks for the next presentation in your agenda. However, I will just outline some of the policies from the community's Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So one of the first things is the playground requirement. So the Latoria neighborhood is identified as a prime candidate for a playground, either to be provided within the Pondside Park or acquired through a development approval process such as this. Staff have reviewed and determined that the Pondside Park location is not feasible due to the steep grades and natural assets of that park. So we're recommending acquiring that playground through this development. The Parks Plan also speaks to a beach to mountain trail connection as shown on this slide. So connecting from Pondside Park and to Madrona Bank Park and continuing down to Latoria Road. Again, I'll save this discussion for Gord's presentation afterwards. And then lastly, the neighborhood connector route. The Parks Plan does show a connection being provided along the south perimeter of the site out alongside Madrona Bank Creek. And staff are proposing alternative strategies to achieve this as well, which we'll get to in the next presentation. In terms of the communication, the applicant led consultation in January as per council policy. A neighborhood site notification sign was also installed in February. This application is not currently scheduled for bylaw readings tonight, but once it is, or if it is, if council endorses the recommendation, then it will be postcards and will be mailed to all the property owners within 75 meters of the property, as well as notifications published in the newspaper prior to that first reading. So I won't repeat this entire planning and land use recommendation. It is in your agenda. However, the key components are the conditions of rezoning. So additional, the Planning and Land Use Committee recommended that the property be rezoned from that the rezoning be approved to permit townhomes and permitted and attached housing and duplex as a permitted use in up to 59 units, subject to the following conditions. So number one being that additional information be provided regarding the comprehensive development, the history of the site. That is coming up on the agenda in 2 items, as well as ensuring that the parks and trails alternative options are considered by the Parks and Rec Committee and Council for endorsement prior to being considered for first reading, and negotiating a set of long-term conditions that will go into the development agreement. And again, that's also coming up on the agenda tonight. I think that's it for me. I will pass it on to the applicant now at this time to present, unless you have any questions at this time.
This way. Oh, sorry. Counselor Jansen, do you need to speak now? Okay, sorry.
I think questions go first.
Go ahead.
I think I don't have a question. I don't want to stand in the way of Councillor Ward asking his question.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I had a question specifically for staff. Thanks, Desiree, for that. I noted in your presentation that in the timeline, you said between December 23 and April 24, feedback was provided. And that's between the developer and the city. In my review of all the materials with this, I noted that from the developer side that they have inferred or stated that the approving officer from the city provided redirection or direction that townhomes would be more suitable here than single family homes. That's what's stated in there. And I guess that's what I'm trying to get my head around, is that if there was an original plan there to build single family homes, you know, it's not about pointing the finger at it, but there's a perception from the public, I think, that oftentimes when scenarios like this happen, that it's the developer that's looking to, you know, maybe capitalize on market shifts and things like that and make more money. But this would lead me to believe that this wasn't, you know, from the developer, that this was in fact a city-led decision, which, you know, potentially leaves us in a position that, you know, either way, you've got a group of residents that are unhappy with the change from single family homes to a townhome development that, you know, they obviously don't like in its current incarnation. And then you've got a developer which potentially was told, hey, despite your original planning, we as a city think this might be better off with a higher density project. You know, now it comes before council when it's not the project that was originally proposed, and nobody really wanted it. So I'd like to find some clarity, I guess, on what that feedback was that was provided to the developer. Like, did the city in fact shift these plans from single family homes to multifamily to townhomes? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward, through the chair. The feedback that staff provided in October and December didn't relate to recommending a use. However, the approving officer at the time when they recommended the townhome use over the single family use was likely looking at the housing needs report for the city and other policies, and just providing options to the developer and as to what would be supported by the OCP. So townhomes is supported by the neighborhood hillside designation, so it's within the realm of possibilities, but I'm not able to speak to what that approving officer would have said or would have shared with the applicant.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Help me out for a second, please. I was there at the Planning and Land Use Committee meeting. I'm not sure if I chaired or if Councillor Ward was present. I don't recall, but I do read and I reflect upon the emotion that flowed from there, and it does have some direction in here that this be passed through the Parks and Trails Committee. And what I don't see in here is any kind of finding from the Parks and Trails Committee. First off, I guess, is that, am I correct in reading that in here, that this was intended to also stream along through the Parks and Trails Committee?
Thank you, Councillor Jansen, and through the chair. Yes, the intention was to go to the Parks and Recreation Committee on June 18th. Due to unfortunate circumstances, that meeting was cancelled. And so staff are bringing it forward to this meeting. However, council does have the option, if they'd like to refer it back to that committee.
So, well, thank you. And my concern is this, the Planning and Land Use Committee made this decision, obviously based upon staff recommendations, and we haven't fulfilled what was suggested from that one committee as of yet. And as a result of that, I struggle sort of moving forward. I understand that sometimes meetings get canceled. I appreciate that. It happens regularly, but I don't think it's acceptable that the next meeting, I believe I saw in here somewhere, was in October of 2024. So I'm struggling a little bit, and I do have a motion prepared off the top of my head, Madam Chair, but I'm not sure if this is the correct moment for that or not, or if we do want to hear from the proponents. But my concern is, and I'm going to suggest a motion when you're ready, that this does get referred to that committee. I would like to see what they have to say. The Parks and Trails Committee is on point for some of the concerns from our residents. I have some other concerns, and I've heard about other areas, but for me, this jumps out based on a recommendation from Planning and Land Use, and we haven't fulfilled a portion of that as of yet. I'll yield, Madam Chair, and if you want to circle back, thank you.
Thanks. So I'm the only person here who was actually on council when the covenant was put on. And I do understand what the goals and desires of the council of that day was. We were trying to ensure connectivity for this future community in an area that we recognized as being extremely challenging. You know, we started with Besanton Way. Actually, the first development on that side of the road was Pondside, the lower portion, and then Besanton. And the goal of Besanton was to create one intersection on Latoria and then have the road fan out and service those other areas. We also recognized, as we were doing our Parks and Trail Connections planning, that we needed a connection that was not Latoria Road for residents. And I think even more, we need that now. We have an elementary school going in Royal Bay. If these townhomes are family oriented, I suspect they might be. That's what our housing needs is telling us. Then we need a safe route to school that is not directed down through traffic, and we need connections for our community and parks that are meaningful. And I'm finding it very difficult to look at any of these reports without having the benefit of being able to go to the Parks Committee about them. Our site adaptive planning pushes a whole bunch of community needs into one basket. We need room for vistas and wildlife. We also need room for humans. And a lot of those areas that are dedicated in this case are not going to be particularly human friendly. They're going to be great for the wildlife, and we need that too. But we do need to make something that works. And I really think that we're too far out ahead of this. The community is clearly voicing a lot of concern.
with what they're going to end up with. And I really think it would be beneficial to have this go to the Parks Committee and flesh out those trail connections and a potential beneficial park in the area. And it needs to be of a reasonable quality that supports this neighborhood. There's many, I have many concerns, so I don't know how the chair feels about the proposal from the developer being presented, but I really would like to see this go to the Parks Committee before council is making any recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Sorry, Councillor Jansen, just before I let you speak, I just wanted to say a couple words. I struggle with this one just because I believe people purchase their homes in this area. Elevation Point, you know, they're luxury view homes. They bought with resale in mind, and they've read the covenant and the OCP, and I just don't. I don't think that council. I believe council needs to support its residents during this debate here. I guess I'm just looking at the schedule that was attached to the covenant, and I think that I don't know what timelines these things have, but if some of these things had been actually done, there's like 7 things listed. If they had all been done, we wouldn't be talking about this because it would have to be a different situation before us. So I'm just wondering, you know, it concerns me that although the covenant is in the city's favor, that it's not worth the paper it's written on. And I guess I just want to say that, you know, I really feel, and this is a little offside, but the unintended consequences of the NDP's Bill 44 it's just going to start to pile up. And from what I can see, there has been no attempt to plan for the consequences. Bill 44 completely undermines most local government's official community plans and many years of city planning and public consultation. And that's what we're seeing here tonight. This is, you know, the start of it. And I just believe people need to live in safe communities and planned out communities. And that's what local government is good at doing. So I can't support this tonight, but I do believe it should go back to the Parks Committee. But I don't think that the Parks component is the only component here that needs to be discussed. But I'll let Councillor Jansen speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is a lot to unpack, and I'm trying to be focused. The concern for me is that we haven't fulfilled the what was presented from the Planning and Land Use Committee. I'm reticent to make a decision, a fulsome decision, until I hear what the Parks Committee, which is made up of citizens, has to say. I'm not sure that I need to hear from the proponent at this time, because what comes back might lead to some changes. So maybe we table that for now. But I will make the motion to refer this to the Parks Committee, and I guess that ends discussion there. But what I don't have a handle on, Madam Chair, is what this might do to the next 2 items, I guess 6.6 and 6.7, but I'll leave that to you and staff. Thank you.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
Madam Chair, if I may, I believe Councillor Jansen is intending to defer the current item 6.6, refer item 6.7 to the Parks Committee, and staff would then recommend you defer item 6.8.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Jansen's moving that. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Day? So that's it. Oh, sorry. All those in favor? One opposed? Oh, you're in favor? In favor.
Everybody's in favor. Thank you. I'd like to just call a 10-minute recess, 5-minute recess.
And we're going to turn it over. John, over to you.
Through the chair, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'll be quick. The city's 2024 budget includes the purchase of a multi-use lawn tractor with snow and ice capability, equipment that would serve walkways, roadways, parks, and trails. Staff are continually searching for zero emissions equipment options to implement as part of the city's electrification program. However, there are no battery electric lawn tractors capable of providing this work. As such, there's a definite imminent need for us to use a piece of equipment like this for a variety of services, whether it's shouldering, snow removal, mowing. As a result, implementing this, because it is a diesel powered piece of equipment, would have an environmental impact. Therefore, we're before council tonight to seek direction.
Thanks so much, JR. That kept it nice and brief. This was discussed during the budget process. So I'll look for a motion. Councillor Jensen.
Yeah, thank you, worship. I'm happy to move the motion if I get to drive it.
Do I have seconder? Councillor Jordison. Discussion? No discussion. Okay, any opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you very much, JR. 6.9, the provincial electric kick scooter pilot project. Tyler. Whoops.
Another one. There we go. Okay, good evening. So through the chair, I'm here tonight to give a brief overview of the electric kick scooter pilot project. Electric kick scooters are becoming a growing alternative mode of transportation in BC. And as one of the most popular ones these days, the province has put together a pilot project to set rules and regulations within participating municipalities. So I have a brief presentation just to go over the program. Please feel free to stop me if you have questions. So the provincial pilot project aims to test the pilot rules and regulations for e-kick scooters and evaluate its impact on active transportation. Its goal is to assess the feasibility of e-kick scooters as a sustainable mode of active transportation and active mobility. The initiative is expected to benefit Colwoodians in the first and last mile connectivity, reduce carbon emissions, and increase accessibility to alternative modes of transportation. So what is an electric e-kick scooter? It's a battery-powered device, motorized with 2 to 4 wheels, stand-on platform, and handlebars for steering. The rules and regulations set specifications for the device, including braking systems, stopping distance, lights, and visibility. The electric kick scooter pilot project started in 2021 as a 3-year project. This year, in April, they amended the program to reduce the onus on municipalities participating and make adjustments to the rules and regulations, and therefore extended the pilot project for another 4 years. So as you know, they're observed to be the most popular new form of personal transportation. Within this period, they'll be evaluating the impact and feasibility of the e-kick scooters. So I already spoke to some of the specifications. Other guidelines include mandatory safety equipment, and then the use of the scooters on the roadways. And some of them participating municipalities are City of Victoria, Saanich, City of Langford, and Township of View Royal recently. So the resolution tonight is to consent to the province of BC's electric kick scooter pilot project taking place in Colwood. It aligns with our strategic plan in environmental stewardship and promoting the sustainable transportation mode. And our responsibilities are to endorse this regulation and promote public awareness to facilitate the cohesive integration of this across municipalities. So tonight we're here to discuss the motion. Once done, we will reach out to the province to have us added to the list of municipalities. And then within the 4U program, do data collection on the use of these devices and changes in active transportation. Following this, we'll report back with the findings. And at that time, in 2028, the province may elect to enact these changes into the Motor Vehicle Act or extend the future pilot program. That was all. I'm here to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. I'll open the floor to questions. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I guess I'm very supportive of this initiative because a lot of people that I've seen utilizing this type of micro mobility have been very responsible, and I have noticed that they are wearing their safety gear. Nothing makes me happier than seeing people with their helmets on, because I've seen the downside of some of those accidents over the years. And I think that's a very responsible and positive image to have in our community. They also have great lighting on them, so they're more visible in the evening, and they might be a really great way to get kids moving onto non-car methods of scooting their way to school in a hurry. So these are all positive steps, and as we get more and more savvy and have more options closer to home, these are going to be a real benefit. So I'd like to move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I'll just get a second and then I'll go to, Councillor Grove, and then go ahead, Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just curious, the provincial program and the reference to the promotion of this program, these materials, the funding for it, and so on, comes from the province, the direction, and we just sign on?
Yeah, the province has the program outlined on their websites. They'll do all the work there.
Right.
For Colwood, it would just be promoting it on our websites and our personal communication.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it sounds great. I will say quick, actually, the last fall, it was a meeting ended late, and of course it was dark. And one of the staff, and that might have been you, left, said good evening, and went zipping up the driveway and curled up along to Wishart and headed off down the road, and you had a blue LED tube light down the handle and across the base.
I think that's
I'm not-
Joshua.
Was that Joshua? Yeah, there he is. And you had your helmet on, your bag over your back, and it took off, and you was so smooth and so dead quiet. And I thought it was like the future of transportation. It was like you were levitating effortlessly. It was fabulous. And ever since then, I've changed my entire attitude toward kick scooters, and I think they look fabulous.
Thank you very much. I just got suspicious when Joshua sold it, when he had a baby. Interesting. So I guess that goes to my realistic question is, what is the safety of these things right now? Is it something that we're gonna regret later on, or is it?
Like in terms of it outlines, it's very similar to bicycle use. So it outline penalties if you're not wearing a helmet. And then the regulations, very similar to bicycles. Yeah.
I think I wrote on yours.
You did. I have a video of it.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, I approve.
I do.
I'm gonna call the question right now. I don't see any other hands. So is there anyone opposed to the recommendation? Seeing none, it's unanimous. Motion carries. Okay, Tanner, you're on.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Apologies for the late report. We were waiting for submissions this afternoon. So I am here to make the staff recommendation for the 2024 asphalt paving works. Be given to Capital City Paving in the amount of $319,487.70. This decision based on 2 submissions and recommended based on best unit price. If you have any questions, happy to answer them before I step away.
Thanks very much, Councillor Grove.
I have thank you. I have no questions and would like to move the recommendation.
Okay, can I get a second, Ron? Okay, Councillor Jensen. And any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, thank you very much. I'll call the question. Is there anyone opposed to the recommendation to the motion? Seeing none, motion is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Anna. Okay, 611, use of the West Shore Parks and Rec Capital Reserve Funds for the outdoor pickleball court construction project. Kathy or Jen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have the West Shore Parks and Recreation Society staff report attached to tonight's agenda. The society is seeking approval from all of the municipal membership to utilize their capital reserve fund to fund the construction of the 6 outdoor pickleball courts. Council heard about this project during budget deliberations. However, at that time, it was suggested that it would be contingent on securing grant funding. That has not happened, which is why this request is before council for consideration. I spoke with the CAO this morning. No other member municipality has yet considered this ask. So you are the first tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Open it up to questions. Councillor Jensen, followed by Councillor Day.
Thank you, Your Worship, as the representative for West Shore Parks and Recs and the vice chair. This was kicked around quite a bit by the board. The preference was that we would move forward and seek grant funding. That has not materialized yet. However, we have shown a significant surplus based on usage of the facility from the last budget year. And we normally divert all that into contingency funds for the future. The recommendation from Mr. Brown, the Chief Administrator, is to move forward and build. This facility is desperately needed, and there's a lot of advocacy on behalf of the users, and they're very well organized. And they put on some tournaments that would use up all the hotel rooms at the hotel up the street quite easily. So it is a net economic benefit to our community directly. We had a discussion this afternoon, Your Worship, about the pool. I spoke to Grant directly about your inquiry with regard to future remediation for the pool. We're not there yet. And there's like a 5-year plan, and we are actually contracting a professional firm to gain a fulsome understanding of what the needs are specifically for future remediation of the pool. So in essence, this is we're too far away from understanding what the pool needs to really, for this to really be a factor, and that the $400K that is suggested is really a drop in the bucket for what is anticipated for the pool itself. So Grant is entirely comfortable as presented using these funds. Now, the caveat was, and the board insisted upon this, that if a grant opportunity materializes in the meantime before we break ground, we have every right to move in that direction as well. So we haven't taken that off the table, and it's 50-50 whether one shows up, but the reality is we want to capitalize on this year, getting the work done for 2025. Thank you.
That's great. Councillor D?
I will move the motion for the pickleball courts, and then I'll just give you my justification. I have spoken to a couple of residents of Colwood who are pickleball advocates, and I see that it has been very beneficial to their health and well-being. One person that I know is a much smaller person than he used to be from playing this game. Another person that I spoke to actually schedules everything else in her life around pickleball to make sure that she doesn't miss her opportunity on the courts. So it's very much a valued game and something that a lot of people can play. And it's also had a lot of negative feedback from being close to residential areas. And that is something that is not an issue at West Shore Parks and Rec. So I think this is a win-win for the whole region of our residents.
Councillor Jensen, you want to second that then? Okay, perfect, thank you. Any other discussion on the matter? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. And thank you very much. We shall move on to 612, which is the 2023 annual DCC report. Jen.
This is simply supplementary information to what was previously disclosed with the 2023 financial statements. Pleased to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, the recommendation is that it be received for information purposes only. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any? Okay, thank you. Second, Councillor Grove. Yeah, sorry. Discussion? Seeing none. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous. 613, 2024-2034 Canada Community Building Fund Agreement. Robert, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Canada Community Building Fund is the new branding for what was formerly known as the gas tax. This is to allow us to receive the gas tax under the terms and conditions contained in this agreement.
Right, thank you. Is this just a motion to receive? Sorry. Oh, that's right, the author signature. May I get a motion? Councillor Day. You got beat. Councillor Olson seconds it. Discussion? Yo, sorry. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that I was the very first year that a federal finance minister ever came to the UBCM convention when this gas tax was first announced as a program. And we have not known if it would continue. It's been doing, you know, at that time, it was still very difficult to convince people that climate change was real. We were having those discussions still in those days. And at the time, it was a daunting task to it still is, to consider reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, but it allows us to do a lot of really great things. So I'm just wanted to say that I'm so very pleased that some form of this continues on to allow us to increase active transportation, pedestrian safety, active and safe communities. So I think this is great news.
Thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, I'll call the question. Any opposed to the motion? Seeing none, motion is approved, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next item is 614 Friendship City, Sister City supporting the Ukraine. Marcy, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So at the regular meeting of council held on June 12, 2023, the city of Colwood was approached by a local group of humanitarians. Vancouver Island supports the Ukraine, and I've nicknamed them VSU, to formalize a sister city agreement with one of the Ukrainian cities. At that meeting, council passed a resolution that staff put together a report to formalize a sister city with one of the Ukrainian cities. So you know, a sister city agreement is a formal affiliation between two communities that fosters international understanding, cultural exchange, and meaningful cooperation. So the purpose of the report before you is to provide council with information and options regarding the request from VSU. Sister city agreements are done throughout the capital region, and it appears that most of them are primarily supported by volunteer organizations. So a little bit of that background on VSU is in 2022, they led a group of community volunteers and delivered food, medical equipment, fire rescue equipment, educational supplies to displaced Ukrainians in partnership with Global Medic. VSU met with 4 municipal mayors in Ukraine who expressed an interest in establishing a partnership with the West Shore municipalities. In 2023, as was stated earlier, the city of Colwood donated funds to purchase a school bus to transport children to a school with a bomb shelter in the Ukraine. To date, so you know, none of the West Shore municipalities have formalized a sister city agreement with any of the Ukrainian cities. But VSU are very optimistic that the 5 West Shore municipalities could work together to assist with their fundraising activities. Some options have been provided within the report that include working to collaborate with VSU and supporting their fundraising activities to support cities in the Ukraine. Or the city might want to look at entering into a specific friendship agreement with a Ukrainian city. Otherwise, council could also provide some alternate direction. Some financial considerations for you is if the city were to dedicate a member of staff as a liaison to VSU, no additional budget would be required rather than staff time would be redirected. If the city were to enter into a friendship agreement with a specific Ukrainian city, it would be recommended that we establish a minimum budget of $5,000. If the friendship city were to visit the city, an additional budget would be required to ensure costs would be covered. Just so you know, the city allocated 46,000 towards grant aid funding in 2023. Currently, there's 10,900 left in the grant aid budget for off-cycle grant applications. So just so you know, I've got Bruce Brown here that is willing to speak if you have any questions. And Bob Beckett is also available electronically online. And just so you know, the city of Langford intends to bring forward a similar report in August to their council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great report. Council Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's no secret that I'm a huge advocate for the efforts of both Bob and Bruce, both longtime humanitarians with a history of, supporting those in need, at home and abroad. This is something that came before us previously, and we indicated that we would respond positively. I believe there's an opportunity to do something as the West Shore. I think we share things. We just spoke about West Shore Parks and Rec, for example. We had the RCMP here this evening. Any Ukrainian delegation that were to come here would probably go beyond Colwood's borders and head to Metchosin and Langford and elsewhere. So what I would like to see, and I'll hold off, I see there's other folks speaking, is ultimately I'd like to make a motion that combines number 1 and number 2. Whereby we would have you, Mr. Mayor, send a letter on behalf of council to the West Shore municipalities, but with the specific goal to enter into a specific friendship agreement with a Ukrainian city. See if we can get our neighbors on board to step up and come together as one on this initiative and see if we can do something, not just for Bruce and Bob, but for the many, many people they helped. The Ukrainian mothers that we see that are in desperate need of breast milk and other initiatives that they're working on. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Oops, second. Yeah, okay, got a seconder. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I really like that idea. I both appreciate VSU's advocacy and work that they've done. But I also really believe that the friendship relationship, sister city relationship could be really, really beneficial to Ukraine long term, because they've been through terrible things and are still going through terrible things. And it's going to have a very long lasting impact. And I really would like to try to provide, I don't know, a ray of sunshine in all of that, to be sure that long term, as we seek to make our families and children safe in our community, that they make their families and their children safe in their communities. And they're going to be struggling for some years to come. And we can help and learn from each other. I think that's a relationship that could be worth investing in.
Thank you very much, Councillor Day. I couldn't say it any better than you just did right now. I am totally supportive of this, being of Ukrainian descent. No? Okay. I just think it's outstanding being involved with it over the past year and a bit here. Worthy cause. I can tell you that right now. So the only thing I want to understand is that, yes, well, we're going to get a letter and we'll send it to the other municipalities, but do we now have what a friendship agreement means? Do we have that like in a draft? So it's a little more concrete when I send it to the other municipalities?
Thank you. We don't have anything crafted right now, but it's typically a 1-page document that would be signed by both the mayors of those communities, and I could create a draft one that I could provide to the other municipalities to go with the letter.
Super.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Day, sorry.
Sorry, I just thought we could probably use what we had for Shika Town, our prior sister city in Japan.
Thank you very much. Call the question. All those for in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Okay, last item under new business, the Public Works Ops Facility, the AAP, the alternate approval process, the certified results. And over to you, Marcy, I guess, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this staff report provides a summary and the notice of elector alternative approval process for the Public Works Operations Facility Loan Authorization Bylaw 2020-2024. The purpose of the bylaw is to borrow an amount not to exceed $8,397,400 to finance the cost of construction of the Public Works Operations Facility to be built to post-disaster standards to support an emergency operations center. The bylaw is subject to electoral approval because the loan amount authorized is above the city's approval-free borrowing amount. So the alternative approval process is a legislative process via the community charter that allows local governments to directly engage residents and seek elector approval to proceed with the adoption of a bylaw, agreement, or another matter in question that requires elector approval. And AAP is an alternative to assent voting, which is a referendum, which is costlier to taxpayers. Council passed a motion at the regular meeting of council held on April 22nd to seek approval for the electors through the alternative approval process. The alternative approval process was conducted in accordance with the requirements of Section 86 of the Community Charter. In addition, the city implemented online, print, and in-person strategies to notify the electors of the AAP process, including information that was presented at the Ideas Fair that was held at Royal Bay in April. The city's website had a dedicated page on the process. 2 large advertisements went into the Goldstream Gazette. Multiple social media posts were on city channels. Information was made available at the front counter. And city posts were made available on social media channels by community members, such as the Colwood Community Page and Colwood Community Association. So the results of the alternative approval process are as follows. We had 16,128 estimated number of eligible electors. From that, we received 40 responses, and all 40 were accepted. That means a percentage of 0.25 responded that they were opposed to the adoption of this bylaw. So because less than 10% of the electors opposed, therefore elector approval has been received, allowing council to proceed with the adoption of the Public Works Facility Loan Authorization Bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the summary, Madam Corporate Officer, and I'm happy to move the recommendation as presented. Thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Ward, thank you very much. You want to speak to it, Councillor Ward, at all? Yeah.
I did note some independent folks posting this on social media and things, so I have no doubt it was pretty well communicated out there. I'm, as I said at the outset, really opposed to this alternative process. I reluctantly went along with it because I really don't think it's all of that democratic. But in this case, I think 40 responses out of 16,000 eligible voters is pretty unequivocal that, you know, if there was even a remote groundswell of opposition to this project, you would have had people make more effort than that. So at the end of the day, while I don't like how we got there, it's pretty clear that that the public, certainly if they don't support it, they're at least, you know, very apathetic. So I'm satisfied with the outcome, which I think is important for me because I don't like this and I've seen the CRD use it to much complaint. So
thanks, Councillor David.
Thanks. I feel possibly a little stronger than that myself because I've been here through some really tough times where we made some really difficult decisions including reducing staff in order to deal with our debt load. So this worries me. But I agree that I also do not like the counter petition approval process because I don't think it's fulsome enough. I think this can too easily fly under the radar. And it just worries me when the city is taking on this level of debt. I just, but it is what it is. I'm going along with the process, but I don't feel strongly that I strongly feel this is not a good direction for the city to be going. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm just gonna wrap it up here before I call the question. I do agree with the comments by both councillors, Ward and Day on this issue. You know, I experienced it twice now, 3 times now down at the CRD. And I wish there was a great way of doing this. You know, I ran into, actually on Saturday, I ran into someone on my walk going down the Lagoon Road there, and he took the opportunity to talk to me. And he says he's one of the, he didn't know how many submitted a no on it, but he did submit a no. And he says, well, I'm for it. I said, well, why'd you submit a no? He says it's because I didn't know anything about it. And that pissed me off so badly that I decided that I was going to put a no in because it's, and I, you know, but what's the solution? You know, I know it's been in the papers, it's on our website, it's, you know, newsletter, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if someone could solve this. I mean, that's the problem right now. And in fact, we were having our July 1st barbecue with our strata. And we were talking, you know, I talked about this, you know, about the Public Works building and, and about the AEP, and they all looked at me, what? I didn't know anything about it. So there you go again. I don't know. It's, you know, we're hitting a certain demographic with people on social media, hitting certain people, you know, with newspaper, not very many, I must admit. But if there was a solution to this, you know, all ears, help us with this. I don't know what the solution is.
I also forgot to mention that it was included in every single tax notice that went out this year, so.
I remember,
Right,
I had that.
yes.
Yeah, so there is not very many excuses. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. And that was brilliant. Whoever thought of that, that was brilliant. Anyways, I will call the question right now. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries, unanimous, and we'll get right into bylaws. And Marcy, do you want to read? My voice is going.
Yes, so first we have bylaw number 2020, the Public Works Operations Facility Loan Authorization, approval of the electors, or sorry, we already have that, and adoption, so adoption.
Okay, Mover, okay, Olson and Grove. Discussion? Any opposed? Counselor Day.
And there's a
Motion.
second part to this. So under section 179 of the community charter, all long-term financing must be done through a regional district and the Municipal Finance Authority of BC. The municipal security issuing resolution is the trigger for a regional district to include a municipality in a security issuing bylaw and forms a key part of the legal documentation required for the MFA financing. So the recommendation is before you, that's on your agenda. I don't know if you need me to read it out in full.
Okay, second, okay. Grove, Olson. Discussion? Seeing none, any opposed? Counselor Day. Motion carries. Next.
Bylaw number 1909-2, off-street parking regulation, electric vehicle, ready parking and omnibus amendments, and that's for adoption.
Okay, mover and seconder, please. Grove and Olson. Discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimous.
Bylaw number 2022, land use bylaw for RBC D5 zone for 376 and 394 Royal Bay Drive, 3479 Wishart Road, adoption.
Okay, mover and seconder, please. Okay. Ward and Grove. Discussion? Seeing none, any opposed? Counselor Day. Motion carries. Next.
Sewer local area service enlargement amendment bylaws, bylaw 1949 for the Colwood Main Sewer and bylaw number 1950 for the Colwood West Sewer. This is for Bex Hill Strata Properties. And it's for first, second, and third readings.
Day and Jensen. Discussion? Seeing none, any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, at this point in time, we shall just take a 30-second recess or a minute recess and we'll go into camera. I'll just wait till they leave and then.
Just on a motion to exclude the public.
Okay.